Graphing Linear Equations, Part 2. In today's lesson, students will learn how to graph a linear equation by drawing a table. By drawing what? Very good. Now, linear equations have two variables. How many variables? Two. And the variables that you will see are x and y. Which variables? X and y. That's right. Now, we all know how to graph coordinate points, but did you know that when you have more than one point, what did I say? More than one point, you can actually connect the dots to make a line. And we call this a linear equation. When two dots can make a line, they are called what? I've told you that a linear equation has both x and y, but it starts with y. Okay, why? It just does. So an example of a linear equation is saying y, and it's an equation, so it has an equal sign. What does it have? An equal sign. Y equals, okay, let's do this one. Y equals 2x minus 3. Okay, so notice in a linear equation, you have a y, you have 2x. What do we call 2x? Starts with a T. It's called a, anybody say term? Very smart. Okay, this is a term. Means the coefficient is the number 2, and the variable is x. Then you're going to subtract 3. Okay, so you're always going to subtract 3. Now, what you can do is you could take any integer you want. You can plug it into this equation. Okay, so what did I say? You can plug it in. When you plug it in, all you have to do is you have to use substitution. Okay, so substitution and plugging in is the same thing. To substitute means you're going to put a number in the place of a letter. Say with me, a number in the place of a letter. Okay? Now, the easiest numbers to choose or integers to choose for what you're going to put in. Now, these actually is what is going to be the x that you will put into the equation. You're going to put an x into it, okay? An x. The easiest numbers, of course, I think would be 0, 1, and 2. Okay, so let's do that. We are going to plug in 0, 1, and 2 into this equation. So what I want you to do is I want you to put parentheses around the x. Do what? Put parentheses around the x in the linear equation. So do this. This means wherever you see x, you're going to substitute it with the number. Okay? So let's try it. You're going to rewrite the equation as y equals 2 times what? 2 times what goes there? If x is 0, what goes here? 2 is being multiplied by 0. That's right. Then you'll subtract 3. Okay? So if you take a look at that, 2 times 0 is 0. And 0 minus 3 is, what is 0 take away 3? Who thinks it's positive 3? Who thinks it's negative 3? Negative 3, that is correct, because if you are at 0 and you take away 3 to the left, that's 1, 2, 3. You're at negative 3. So basically what it means is that your answer, y, or the output, which is y, is negative 3. Okay, so don't stop there. If I plug in a 0 into the equation, I get 0 minus 3, which is negative 3. So my ordered pair is going to be, x will be what? Remember, your x is your ordered pair, x, comma, y. So x is what? 0. And what did we get for y? -3, that's correct. Okay, so it is that easy. It really is. So now let's take a look at it again. Okay. Now we're going to plug in 1, or we're going to substitute 1 in the place of x. So we're going to rewrite the original equation, which is y equals 2 times x, take away 3. Okay? So what is x? What are we saying? What are we going to put in for x? We're going to put in a 1. Okay, then you're going to put an equal sign. What is 2 times 1? 2 times 1 is 2. Very good. Okay? Okay, and then you have subtract 3, so it's 2 minus 3. All right, so you have 2 minus 3. You have a positive 2 and a negative 3. So what do you have to do there? Are they same signs or different signs? Different signs, subtract. Good. So what is 3 take away 2? 3 take away 2 is 1, but you keep the sign of the higher number, so that's going to be -1. So your ordered pair, take a look at these two columns. Your ordered pair is going to be 1, comma, -1. These are going to be points that you later will graph, okay? Let's do one more. Now we're going to plug in 2. So we rewrite the original equation, and it's going to be 2 times x, which we're going to plug in a second, take away 3. All right. So what is x? X is going to be 2. So this one now, what is 2 times 2? 2 times 2 is 4. And 4 take away 3 is pretty easy, right? It's 1. And now the ordered pair is going to be 2. What is x? What is x? 2. And what is y? 1. Now that we have 3 points, and all I'm asking you for are 3 points. How many points? 3. Now we can plot these on the coordinate plane and make a line, okay? So let's take a look. We're at 0, -3. Remember that you start on which axis when you graph points? You start on the x-axis, that's correct. So you start at 0. Then you're going to go up 3 or down 3. I'm going down. You're going to go down 3. So you're at 0, you go down to -3. There's a point right there. All right. Now what's your next ordered pair or coordinate point? 1, -1. 1, -1. I wonder what quadrant that will be in. If we start at 1 on the x-axis, we're going to go down 1. We're in quadrant 4. Okay, our last point that we need is 2, 1. What quadrant do you think 2 positives are in? Which quadrant? Quadrant 1, that's right. So you're at 2, go up 1. Now take a look at these 3 points. When you have 2 points, actually, you can make a line. But we did 3 just so you could see the steepness of this line. So you're going to connect the dots, okay? And it is a good practice whenever you make a line to write the equation for the line. The equation that represents, or this graph is y equals, what was the original equation? 2x minus 3. Which means if you plug in any value for x, you will get a value for y, and that point will fall on this line. Let's do another example of how to graph a linear equation. The next linear equation we're going to do is, read it with me, y equals -x plus 1. Okay, now, do you see something invisible? Yes, there really is an invisible 1, an invisible -1, which means whenever you take x and you multiply it by 1, it's going to make the answer the opposite. It's going to make it the opposite, okay? So let's go ahead and plug in the values for x. We call those input. We call them what? Input. To get the values for y, we call that output. We call that what? Output. Okay, so you have input and output. So let us begin. Let's rewrite the original equation. We have y equals -1 times x plus 1. Okay, so what are we going to input? What's x? X is 0. Okay, x is 0. What is -1 times 0? Anything times 0 is 0. Plus 1 would be 1. Very good. So the answer here is 1. The ordered pair is going to be, what's x? 0. And what's y? 1. Okay. Let's go ahead. We're going to plug in 1 now. Y equals -1 times x plus 1. Okay. What's x? 1. What is -1 times 1? What is -1 times 1? What's the opposite of 1? -1. So this is -1 plus 1. -1 and +1 make 0. So you have 0 as your y coordinate. So this next coordinate or ordered pair is 1, 0. Okay, glad we did this one. All right, last one. Y equals y equals -1 times x plus 1. So, okay, what is x now? What are we going to put in? We're going to input 2. So what is the opposite of +2? -2. And this is -2 plus 1. So we have a -2 and a +1. Different sign, subtract. Keep the sign of the higher number. So 2 take away 1 is 1. Keep the sign of the higher number, so that's -1. So our last point on our graph is going to be 2, -1. So let's take a look at how we graph these points, because I have told you it is very important that you know what happens when you have zeros in an ordered pair. I'm going to tell you right now, those are called intercepts. Intercepts. Intercepts is where the point touches either the x-axis or the y-axis. Touches the what? The x-axis or the y-axis. So let's take a look. You're at 0, +1. Well, we start at the x-axis. You're at 0. Go up to +1. Which axis is this on? It's on the y-axis. Very good. It's on the y-axis. Now what if we're at 1, 0? That means that we start at 1, but we don't go up, right? So now we're on what axis? Which axis? X or Y? We're on the x-axis. Very good. Okay. Last one is 2, -1. You have a 2 with a negative. What quadrant is this? 4. You have 2, -1. So you have these 3 dots, right? Now you can tell they're going down, and we'll talk about that a little bit later because that means it has a negative slope. Okay, we'll talk about slope tomorrow. But for now, all you have to do is connect the dots like so, because these 3 dots make a line. They make a what? A line. And the line you can see is going down. What's the last thing you have to do? You have to write the equation. So the equation is y equals -1x plus 1. Okay, that is how to graph a linear equation. See you tomorrow.